Hello and welcome back to the Gamescast Space Centre. This is episode number 3 of To the Mun and Beyond. Right, first something to let you know, I am recording this commentary separate to recording the actual video you're watching now. Reason is, when I was recording this and the next 3 episodes, unfortunately I had slight issues with the weather. It was peeing it down and it meant that you wouldn't have heard jack of me talking. You may think that's a good thing, but tough, you've got to listen to me talk anyway. So, on the back of the last episode, we did the successful flight to get up, away from the planet, away from Kerbin, up into the atmosphere, and came back down again. We were going to try and get an orbit, didn't quite work, we ran out of fuel. So, what you're seeing here is me going back to basics, and thinking, well, what do we need? Well, we know we need the command module, the SAS module, and the decoupler. That's the 2 things I've put back onto it there. Now at this point, I knew I needed more fuel because I quite frankly didn't have enough to get me into or out of the atmosphere and then into an orbit around the planet. It just wasn't working. What you didn't see and won't see in this episode is I did a number of tests after episode number 2 of different things, and that's me getting the wrong fuel tank again. I never learn, do I? Where I was just trying to basically get up into the atmosphere and to practice doing an orbit, so I didn't look like a complete and utter dickhead when I recorded the episodes. Then I realised I was doing it completely wrong, but I hit a bit of a brainstorm. So what you're seeing now is me trying out that brainstorm, and that brainstorm is very simple. We had, well, 2 engines, 1 main engine with lots of fuel, 1 smaller engine with a bit more fuel at the top, which would then hopefully get us up into an orbit. And we weren't looking to go anywhere but into orbit and come back down again. But obviously you need fuel to be able to get back down again. So this is TGC2, as you can just see I've changed it there. And you'll see why in a minute, because right now it looks pretty much the same, doesn't it? It does. Except the fact I've now got a shed load of fuel with the large fuel and then the 2 of the smaller ones attached to the what will be the main burner. Now the idea here was, like I said, to give me more thrust and to give me more fuel. Obviously the problem you've got there is weight. The more weight, the harder it is to get up into the atmosphere, to get into an orbit and to stay up there. Now I've been doing a bit of research on this because I am a noob. As I explained at the beginning of this series, I am a noob to Kerbal Space Program, but I'm learning very quickly, and I've learnt an awful lot actually between episode 2 and this episode 3. And this is one of the things I've learned about how to properly connect things up, because I'd messed with it, as I say, in the sort of quote-unquote off-air video that I did, and I just looked like an idiot. I actually got nowhere, so I didn't bother posting up, because quite frankly it would have been boring. You would have been seeing me doing the same thing over and over again that I did in episode 2 and not getting much further. Bit crap, really. So I thought, okay, we'll scrap that, we'll go back to the drawing board, I'll do a bit of research on design and ideas. And here we are. So, my idea this time was, as you can see, to have not only the main central engine with fuel attached, but also to have 3 external engines with 2 of these large fuel tanks attached to those as well. Now, as you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble lining it up with the decouplers, which is the sort of weird things on the side of there. This means that once I've got up into orbit, I can then detach the outer ones, still leave the central one, use that one, then detach that one when it's burnt out or when I don't need it anymore. But yeah, attaching these was a bit of a trick, so I had to really kind of faff around with it quite a bit to get it working. But eventually, got it on. This was a bit of a eureka moment for me. I was kind of swearing at it not working at this time. So then we're adding 3 more. Fuel tanks on the bottom of this. I kind of had it in the wrong place, I think. It does all these weird things where it tries to attach it to where you think, or where it thinks you want it to be. It wasn't working out that well. So there we go. We've got our 2 large fuel tanks. Now we need the 3 engines. This was all done with, as you can see in the bottom left corner, with the symmetry tool. Obviously with 3, because I wanted 3 engines. Now I thought this would work. I thought this would be perfect. Plenty of fuel, plenty of thrust. Nice and simple to get up into the atmosphere and get away from the planet. That was the idea. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got all this fuel. All that's going to happen is I'm just going to burn it all off in the getting to the atmosphere phase, and that was my phone, sorry. I should put my phone on silent when I start doing this, shouldn't I? Let me do that now. Really, I should have learnt this, but I just kind of suck. There we go. So, what I wanted to do was make sure that, one, this was strong, because I had a horrible feeling after some tests I'd done before and other videos I'd seen on YouTube from other people doing this kind of thing. These kind of rockets with these attachments on the sides can be extremely unstable. So what we're doing here is we're just zooming in a little bit, and if I remember, I think this is the fuel connectors I'm doing. Let me just see what I actually do this. This was just trying to get it all symmetrical and making it all line up in the middle. I completely failed to do that. As you'll see in a second, I did not get them lined up at all. And it was a bit of a joke, really, but hey, it was a bit of fun doing it. Yes, there we go. So these are the fuel lines. What's going to happen here is, this is going to feed fuel from those 3 outer sets of fuel tanks, and they will keep topping up the central tank, so that although those 3 engines are burning, they're using up fuel as well. It's making sure that the central engine is kept topped up with fuel. The idea being that when I cut off the 3 exteriors, obviously the fuel lines will detach, and then it will just be fine, and it will then continue burning the rest of the fuel on the central one, by which point in theory I should have enough fuel to be able to throttle back quite a bit, to not use so much fuel so quickly, and get myself up into the atmosphere and into some kind of orbit. That's the plan. So next I'm adding some struts. Now these are for strength. This is what I was talking about just a second ago. And again, I've still got the symmetry tool, so it's connecting 3 at a time. So that connects them at the bottom. I figured the decouplers at the top were probably enough, and we're going to be okay. And as you can see, I've really badly lined them up, so I got rid of them. Then I forgot what I was clicking and managed to remove the engines as well. Very clever. You've got to be very careful what you click on in this game, as I found out doing these episodes. So, back to the struts. What I'm trying to do again is match them up into the middle of the craft, to try and keep some symmetry and try and keep the weight and the mass distribution simple. So, wasn't quite perfect, but you know what, it probably works. So that'll do for that. Now at the top, this is where I got thinking, okay, well they're a bit flat on top, I don't like that, and actually do I need more strength? I probably do. So we're going to add more struts on the top, coming out to the top of our external fuel tanks. Go on, click it, there we go, I clicked it. It's very weird talking to yourself. And there we go, so we've got the 3 connectors, decouplers just underneath that, and then the bottom decouplers as well. I've also just realised that I'd actually disconnected the fuel tanks by some miracle, by disconnecting the fuel tanks, the fuel lines even, sorry. One thing important to note, if you're new to this game, with the fuel lines, when you're connecting them, these will pump fuel, but they will pump them the way that you set them. So, if I'd started on the centre engine and put them to connect to the outers, they would take fuel away from the inner engine and onto the outer 3, which by the time you come to separate the outer 3 wouldn't really work. It could be okay, it could be fine, but I wanted to just have something more streamlined when I was up in the atmosphere to make it a bit easier to control, because it's going to be a bit of a shit to get this thing turned around. So next, it looked ugly. I wanted to have boobs. Sorry, cones. You were all thinking it. I wanted to have cones on top of the external fuel tanks, because it just made it look a little bit better. Okay, the tops are blue. Not so great, should be black like those, but they look stupid because they're tiny. I could have got away with that, black looked better, but I wanted it covering the whole thing. Make it a bit more aerodynamic going up through the atmosphere, which is the key thing. That's where this is really going to count. It's in the atmosphere of Kerbin that we're really going to have a problem to try and break away, try and get the thrust and all that kind of thing. So, that I thought might work out. I've just saved it there to make sure that I keep this particular ship. Then I realised that my problem before was stages. In the testing I did between 2 and 3, episodes 2 and 3, sorry, I found that I'd actually got the staging wrong. And at the end of episode 2, I did read your comments, I realised that I had actually got the staging wrong on that, which is why the parachute was shooting too early at the end of episode 2, when we were coming down to get Jebediah back on Kerbin again and get him home safe. So that I thought was okay. That seems to be sorted out. I've got the 3 engines. I've got the decoupler for the 3 outers. Is the next thing to fire. Then I had the decoupler to fire again, which wasn't going to work. But I didn't realise this at the time. Now I'm just trying to add some fins on to try and get some more stability, because this thing's quite ugly. It's quite cumbersome, and I was worried it was going to be really, really, really unstable when we got, well, anything over 1,000 meters actually. When the thrust was really pushing, the speed was getting up, and all that kind of thing. So it wasn't quite working. I wanted 4 in the middle. It wasn't going to do 4 in the middle because of the way I've got the outer rockets and fuel tanks set up. It took me a while to realise that, but anyway. So then I thought, well, okay, fins on the outers, nice and symmetrical. Makes sense. It keeps the line. That's where the air rush is going to be. And then when we detach is when we'll be up near or getting away from the atmosphere, so those fins will be less effective the further up we get. Then I thought, well, actually, no, I need something higher, probably as well, just to stabilise the top. They are huge and not right for my rocket at this point, for DGC-2. For a later one that gets bigger, probably yes, but not right now. So, went for these little ones. They're basically winglets, I think they were, if I remember correctly. I'm sure they're winglets. I can't go to the video because it's very small as I'm narrating this right now. But they're going to go on top, so they're kind of offset from the other 3. Again, hoping to give some stability. And there we go. That is TGC-2. Ready to go. Just about. Oh yes, I changed my mind. That was it. I changed my mind. I've realised that 4 might look better. I don't know why. Looking at it now, I'm thinking, yeah, 3 would have been better on top. But anyway, there we go. This is TGC-2. We are going to launch this in the next episode, so make sure you come back for that. And we'll see if this thing will actually get off the ground. Am I hopeful? Well, I was. Then you'll find out what really happened in the next episode. See you in episode 4.